So now I'm going to tell you about the second magic key. And the second magic key is acceptance. And I'm going to talk to you about 3 aspects of acceptance. The first being accepting you, the second being accepting others, and the third being accepting your life. Now the first one, accepting yourself, this one's a bit of a challenge. When we become consciously aware, we become aware of how much we don't accept ourselves. Now, just as an example of this, if you look at your piece of paper where you wrote your 3 responses to the statements I gave you, where I told you that I believe that you're beautiful, that you matter, and that you're perfect. If you look at your responses to those, how many of you are looking at them and thinking, oh no, I wish I'd have said something else. Oh, why weren't there more loving statements on there? I've been doing this for so long and I'm still saying things like this to myself. These are examples of what happens when we become aware of the stuff that makes us feel uncomfortable about ourselves. We then don't accept it, we push it away, we pretend it didn't happen. And because we do that, we're not able to do something with it that's constructive, that makes a difference to our life. So the beating ourselves up is another example of how we add to the limited feelings and the thoughts and the beliefs that we have about ourselves. So the first thing I think that we can do when we become consciously aware is to accept ourselves as being right where we need to be in terms of how we relate to ourselves. And to me, that's a big challenge. If I can give a very brief example from my own life, I've spent some years teaching people about angels, and when I first had my big spiritual awakening, or my most recent one, and I started working with angels, I found it really difficult to tell people because I thought they'd think I was mad. And so what would happen is people would say to me, oh, what do you do? And I'd say, oh, well, you know, I do this thing, it's going to sound a bit weird and, you know, you might not really believe in it, but that's okay, whatever you believe is fine. By that point I'd lost people, because you could see them backing away. They'd be like, oh, we've got a right one here. So there was a real lesson for me in learning about what happened, and what happened for me when I started to accept all of me. And when I decided that I would just tell people, in the same way that I could say I'm a teacher or a lawyer or a barrister or an architect, that I would say I work with angels. And I was at a wedding the first time I did that, and I was standing around with a group of people, all of us introducing ourselves, and it was a bit like that. People were like, oh, hi, my name's so-and-so and I'm a barrister, and hi, my name's so-and-so and I'm a teacher, and hi, my name's so-and-so and I'm a nurse. And he got around to me and I said, my name's Dee and I work with angels. Because I'd changed my approach, because I'd come from a place of accepting myself, what I noticed was that other people accepted me, and instead of all backing away, which they used to do, most of the group stepped forward and said, really? That's really interesting. And then started to ask me questions about it. And that's in my experience ever since. Not everyone connects with what I do, and that's fine. Everyone's where they need to be at. But what's happened is that people who are ready to explore and connect with me can do so more easily because I accept me. So that's the first aspect of acceptance, accepting ourselves. The second one is accepting others. In the same way that we are in the most perfect place for us right now, other people are as well. And we all, I believe, are doing the very best we can based on our experiences, based on how we feel about our lives, based on limitations that we carry, that other people have told us that we are. We're doing the very best. And I mean each one of us, everybody. It becomes really easy, I think, to say, oh no, kind of, don't listen to that person, they're coming from a place of fear, or, you know, that person's just angry, don't listen to them. And I think we do that to ourselves as well. Don't listen to that fear, don't listen to that anger. But actually I think if we come to a point of acceptance rather than judging, and we do judge, it's a human thing, and it's judging to say don't judge, of course, but to come to a place of just accepting that people are where they need to be, and that they're in the perfect place for them, I think is a really helpful part of this next part of our lives, which is accepting our lives. So that's the third aspect of connecting with acceptance, is accepting our lives. Now, it becomes very easy in our lives, I think, to give away our power, to say, this person hurt me, this person did this thing to me, this person did that thing to me. And what we do when we say that to other people or to other situations, I can't move on in my life because the system sucks. When we give our power away, what then happens is that we aren't in a position to create change. We're not able to do things differently. We don't feel like we can move forward in our lives. And we've given our power away. We've given our right to create our lives and our world to someone else or to something else. That's called, in NLP terms, locus of control. One of the best things that we can do, I think, in terms of coming to accept our lives, is to bring back our locus of control so that it stays within us and not with other people or other situations. Now, it becomes really easy when talking about this and to ask and to suggest that we should accept our lives. It becomes really easy for people to say, yeah, but what do you know? How can you say that to people who've had really difficult experiences in their lives? How can you say that, to people who've been abused, or, to people who have had a member of their family killed? I don't suggest that you do this if you've been in that situation, but what I'm going to share is what I've done based on my own personal experience of abuse, how I've come to accept my own experience, and how that's actually been really transformational in terms of me being able to feel strong in myself, to feel like I can connect with my ability to create my life the way I want it to be. My father is basically, to cut a very long story short, pretty much it could be said to be a psychopath. I'm sure if he was assessed he would be found to be one. One of probably the most violent people I've ever come across in my whole life. And so much so that he tried to kill me, I watched him try to kill my mother. I was with him at the age of around 7 when he went to a shop to buy a gun, which I believed at the time he would shoot my mother with, and we later found out he was very much planning to do so. So, a very interesting kettle of fish. I lived for the whole of my childhood living in a constant state of terror, day and night, because also his violence came from a place of being sober, so it wasn't linked to alcohol. There was no warning as to when things would change. Now, I had a very interesting experience a couple of years ago where I saw my father in a completely different light, and instead of seeing him as this huge, scary kind of, he's actually not huge physically, but kind of feeling him as some kind of huge, big, scary person, I saw that in him is a little soul, or a great soul, that is pure love. And what I got shown was that he chose to take on all this pain and all this suffering and all this sadness and all this anger and hatred, so that I could learn, and that others of us around him could learn, about how to connect with the love within us and how to come to a place of connecting with our own infinite abundance and our own infinite power. It completely changed my experience of my life, because I came to understand that actually everyone in my life has acted in a way that's been perfect for me. I then came to a point where I came across a book very recently, and it's written by Neil Donald Walsh, who wrote the Conversations with God series, and it's a children's book, and I think it's called Children of the Sun. You may have to correct me, Neil Donald Walsh. I'm so sorry if I've got the title wrong, but it's a very beautiful summary, and I would recommend that you get it. And it describes the story of two souls, and one soul says to God, I would like to learn forgiveness, and I would like to be forgiveness. And God says, well, that's great, you can be forgiveness. And the little soul says, well, how can I be forgiveness? And what happens is this other soul, this very close dear friend, turns around to the first soul and says, I will help you to be forgiveness. And the way that this soul does that is, in the next life, becoming everything that the first soul needs so that he can learn to be forgiveness. Once I connected with my ability to accept my life and to accept my experiences, and that's just a very short summary of them, I came to a point where I could be grateful for my life. And the peace that comes from that is incredible. As I said, I don't ask you to do the same. You may be watching this and think, you know, I've had some really pretty crappy experiences in my life. I don't know if I can ever accept that that was okay. I'm not saying it's okay, and I'm not asking you to change how you feel. What I'm sharing with you is how I've come to change how I feel about mine. And if that helps you in some way, then great. If it doesn't, that's fine too. But that is the second magic key, the key of acceptance.